So, welcome again to another episode of Tory's Fanfiction Laboratory. I'm Tory, also known as Detroit, and this is the second episode of Tory's Fanfiction Laboratory. Tagline, code, whatever you want to call it, it's because too many ideas, too little time. Sadly, this whole October was like this huge surge of fan fiction prompt ideas that kept coming in my mind. And I'm sure I cannot write all of them, but I would love to write some of them. And there were like so many ideas that were coming that I had to start keeping a fan fiction prompt diary. Yes, I do have a different diary, as I've said this before in other segment of this whole Lit Lady Studio podcast thing, that I do have several diaries, and this is a new kind of diary, which is a prompt diary for fan fiction specifically, like anime, K-pop, whatever, anything. So yeah, half of the diary is already filled with prompts now. It's crazy. And a few days ago, okay, so I should give some background. It's like it's been a month, more than a month, 1.5 months, because the last time I uploaded this segment was probably early September, and it's the late of October. Today is 31st October, and today's episode is not necessarily going to be spooky, but disclaimer, I do not celebrate Halloween, and yeah, there's that. So in the previous episode, I did talk about a bit about floating heads, and the first wave of floating heads happened in spring of 2022, and last month at the end of September, there was the second wave of floating heads, and this time it was Nuviva and Johnny from Entity. I'm not happy about this, but so the thing is, there's way too many. I feel like this whole Johnny and City fanfiction ideas, I could make several episodes on that alone. But today I'm going to be focusing on probably a few stories today. And here's the thing, since we make fanfiction in this episodes, we talk about plots. So the plots itself are going to be very spoilery. And it's not like the stories actually exist. I'm putting it out there so that somebody can, write if they're interested. And also, next day, NaNoWriMo is going to start, and you can try these stories, these prompts, and write fiction for NaNoWriMo. I've never won NaNoWriMo, by the way. And I did attend a few Camp NaNoWriMo, and my highest was like 30K. I was a bit sick at the end of 1 month, I remember. It was like the beginning of 2022, the first NaNoWriMo in April, and it was pandemic time. And I did write 30K, and then I got sick, and yeah, I had to stop for a while. So what happened? So yeah, I think it's my first time I'm doing NaNoWriMo for real. I think because 2022 at the end, I was busy with schoolwork in November. There were like midterms and stuff. And last year I also didn't do NaNoWriMo, but I did start Camp NaNoWriMo, and I couldn't finish any of them. And I don't know what's going to happen this year, but let's not give up. So, so, so let's go back to the floating heads thing. So this time it started with the story I made back in 2K13. And back then I didn't plan to write anything that is like, rom-com, contemporary. Back in those middle school days, I used to make speculative fiction a lot more. And around high school, for some reason, I started writing more contemporary stories. And there was this prompt, plot, whatever that came in my mind. I made it, but later, years later, I decided that it should be fan fiction, but I couldn't really pick anyone for that fan fiction. It's like, when you have a plot, like when a director has a plot in their head, like a screenplay at their hand, they look for someone who's gonna, make a good protagonist. So I had the plot, and I didn't know who would fit the best for that story. I thought of V from BTS, and then Wonwoo from 17, also Sunwoo from The Boys, and maybe I tried a lot more people. I don't know. And at the end of September, suddenly, probably on 25th, it came in my head that Johnny would fit the MC quite well. But okay, today's episode is not going to be about that FF, and I will talk about it in the upcoming episode, probably. Don't know when, can't guarantee anything, but that was the beginning because, it was like that floating head situation. And ever since, I didn't look back. I don't even know anything about NCT that well. Nubiba, she's a huge citizen, and I got to know bits and stuff from her. And I am currently watching NCT Night Night a lot, and I'm a huge fan of Doyoung. He is very relatable in many cases. I feel like, yeah. Anyway, so okay, so today I'm gonna talk about this prompt. It's like a huge universe. NCT FF verse. I call it Winwood verse. Winwood is gonna be this fan fiction. I'm gonna write to newbie for newbie. And yeah. So a few days ago, I was making breakfast and I was recording a plot for I had a prompt, like I had loads of prompt ever since this whole floating head second wave thing. All of them are like with NCT members, and most of them are like Johnny, to the point that I call myself like I have a JFC. Like JCC is like Johnny Communication Center, JFC is like Johnny Fanfiction Center. But I do have many other. I did get a lot more fanfiction prompts like for Doyoung, Taeyong, Mark, Jungwoo, Haechan, and so on. But anyway, that's not what I get distracted a lot. But what can I say? I jump a lot. Yeah. So anyway, so one day at the beginning of October, I had a prompt, and I thought that I was thinking that I'm not gonna write it, so I might as well talk about the plot just a bit to newbie. So I recorded it, and she told me that I should have a podcast. And I was like, yeah, I already have a podcast. I was thinking in my head, and I thought that this episode should be something like that as well. So this episode is dedicated to newbie. Consider it like a letter that I have for her, to her. Letter to newbie. So here's the thing. I am currently writing this Johnny one shot, and it's a bit spooky, and it's set in Winwood verse. So Winwood verse is like there's this. It's the Winwood. The first book in the Winwood verse is called Winwood, and Winwood means forest of friends. So here, MC is this girl called Chungwon, and she has a brother called Jinwoo. They're like Park siblings, and they somehow become friends with Jaehoon, because here they have this 97-liner game show, and Jinwoo is one of the writers, part of the production team, and somehow Jinwoo and Jaehoon become friends because Jaehoon is also part of that game show, the 97-liners game show. If you're part of the K-pop community, you would know that 97-liners are very popular. Like there's Jungkook, Chan, Bangchan, and there's Mingyu, D8, Dokyeom, Jaehyun, Cha Eun-woo. I don't know who else there's Yugyung for GOT7. So probably in this game show there will be different people coming from 97-liners, as well as Lisa and Rose. And yeah, this is how the game show would be. I haven't made that much, but Jinwoo somehow becomes friends with Jaehoon because Jaehoon is one of the regular panelists in that show. So that's how Jaehyun gets to meet Jinwoo, and thus Jungwon, who owns a cafe, and they become friends and they go on adventures a lot. This is going to be something like that friends to lovers sort of story. I don't want to talk about much about it because today's episode isn't about that. Oh my god, I feel like there should be so many episodes on Fanfiction Laboratory. Let's not get excited. So part of what I'm writing is, for now, I'm writing a one-shot set in the Winwood verse. So in Winwood Verse, they go on adventures. So probably Jaehoon will go to Fukuoka in one of their vacation, and Johnny from there would Johnny as well joins Jaehoon while Jaehoon visits Chungwon and Jinwoo. There's this restaurant, and since Chungwon owns a cafe, so there Johnny, who also got to meet Jinwoo and Chungwon, he waits for them at the cafe. Okay, this was so bad. This was so bad. I should start from the beginning. So Johnny, he was, in the game show, people get invited. So Johnny was probably an MC or something on one of the episodes of that game show in that Winwood world. And he got to know about, he met Jinwoo, he heard about Chungwon, and he was curious. And now NCT has a vacation in this world. And Johnny and Jaehoon and his friends, they're gonna go to airport. But before going to airport, Jaehoon is gonna pick up Chungwon and his brother, and there's three. They're gonna go to Fukuoka, and from there at the airport, Johnny will go to the States. So around 12 or 12:30 a.m., they're gonna go to the airport. So now Johnny and Jaehoon, they went to the cafe. And upstairs, there's Chungwon and Jinwoo's house. They live. Their parents live at Jeju, and they live at Seoul. So Johnny was waiting for them at the cafe, and something sort of supernatural happens at the cafe. And that one shot is about that. He meets this girl called Haewon, who is probably a ghost. Probably she's dead. Probably she's not. In the one shot, it's going to be very open-ended. Nobody will ever find what the truth is. So I plan to make it seem like a bit phantasmagorical, a bit magical realism, a bit supernatural, very eerie, but also very sparkly, magical, something like that. I love stories like that for some reason. So that's what I'm writing. And in the story, Haewon and Johnny, they have sparks. It's like, that it's not going to be happy ending, but it's not necessarily a sad ending. It's like that one memory that you don't know what's it about and you don't know how to categorize it, but it was not necessarily bad, the memory. This is how I see it, and probably this is how Johnny would see it. That's what was my initial reaction to this prompt that came in my mind. So I was writing it, and surprisingly, which makes me really happy, that Newbie also likes the plot of the story. For some reason, she ships Henny, Haewon, and Johnny a lot, and we kind of got way too much invested in their relationship, this fan-fictional relationship of these two characters. Yep, we're fangirls, and it doesn't make any sense, but fanfictions be like that. And we were both sad about the fact that, oh man, Haewon, at the end, she is gonna leave because either she's dead or she doesn't want, there's not gonna be this happy ending, and she's probably gonna leave. And we were over that. We were so invested that we were just sad about it. Even though it's not a sad story, we were seeing the story from a sad filter. So it's been a crazy ride in our heads, at least. So 2 or 3 days ago, probably 2 days ago, I was just having this conversation with this fan-fictional version of Johnny, and he was like telling me that I want this happy ending. And I was thinking that, but she's probably dead. Okay, so the thing is, either she's dead or she's not. It's never explained, but let's assume that Haewon is dead. And I was thinking that, yeah, I am not a sad ending person. I always love to give happy endings in my stories. And I was like, okay, I think I'm gonna make a happy ending story for you. So this episode is like a letter to Newbie, consider that I am talking to Newbie and I'm telling the plot of the story to Newbie because she was excited. I gave her, like, when this idea came, washroom visits are always full of ideas. So I came back and I was like, Newbie, listen, I think I have a FF for the Johnny from the Winwood world, and she was very excited. And I told her that she texted me next day because last night was like very late. She texted me, so tell me the plot. I was like, the plot has become so big that, man, I cannot text it. So there should be a podcast episode on that, which is why I'm doing this episode. So I guess I'll give her the link of this episode that, hey, listen to this. You can listen to it on like double speed if you need to, because YouTube can do double speeds, obviously. Whatever. So yeah, this chance encounter happened at Jungwon's cafe, and lots of other things happen because there are like many stories in the Winwood world. There is this one Winwood for called Jaehyun's one is Winwood. There is another one that happens called Snickerdoodles. We'll have another episode for Snickerdoodles. So in Snickerdoodles, it's Doyoung fan fiction, and so the MC is called Hyeran, who is a 96 liner just like Doyoung. And Hyeran is friends with this person called Jinkyung. So when I made the story that night, that evening, I was thinking that I want to ship a webtoon artist with a K-pop star. And I was thinking that Haechan would be for some reason, Haechan came in my mind. So I was thinking that, yeah, Haechan and a webtoon artist would be fun. So now the plot is that Kiran, this girl from the Winwood world, Snickerdoodle's book, I don't know if anybody can ever catch up with this chaos of an episode, but hopefully Newbie can. Yay. Or someone else, whoever has, I don't know, too many references. I said that in episode 1, that there's too many references. My life is full of reference. Reference girl is my middle name, probably. So Karen is friends with these two sisters who are webtoon artists. They're Kang sisters. I don't know what their pen name is, but they're a duo. Kang sister. Hyeran is friend with the older sister because they were they're the same age and they used to go to the same department in university. That's how they become friends. While Hyeran went to the entertainment industry where she writes. So Hyeran is Jinwoo's colleague, like sunbending. So she became a screenwriter, writer for shows. And meanwhile, Jinkyung thought that she wants to write webtoons. So Jinkyung's younger sister is a talented artist. So together, Jinkyung and her sister Jiwon, Kang Jinkyung and Kang Jiwon, they both make webtoons. Now they're like pretty famous in the story. They're like, these two sisters are pretty famous. I'm not sure what kind of webtoon they make. I don't know, probably fantasy. I don't know. So they're like very popular. So they live together, and Jiwon, the younger sister, is a 00 liner, like Haechan, and she does the art mostly. And Jinkyung, the older sister, 96 liner, she mostly writes the stories, and she also provides assistant for art to her younger sister. So together they make webtoons. Also, they have a YouTube channel and they manage multiple SNS medias to promote their stuff. So on YouTube channel, they talk a lot about their process and everything, fun stuff. They do vlogs sometimes. I mean, not sometimes. They're like pretty regular. So yeah, they're doing their stuff. They have their own thing. And Hyeran is good friends with both of them. So they live around the same place where NCT dorm is, where NCT 127 dorm is. And so one day, so Hyeran is paired with Doyoung. So Hyeran went to visit the Kang sisters, and they asked that, oh, you came, and then she was on a phone call with Doyoung, and they asked that, who are you talking to? Like, oh, 남자친구. And they asked like, who's the name? And Hyeran didn't say that she's dating Doyoung in the story, and she said that Dongyoung. So she said Doyoung's real name, and they thought that, okay, it's gonna be Samjo Dongyoung. They don't know it's NCT Doyoung. But that's not the issue. The main story is that Jinkyung looks like Haewon. She has the same height, same voice. She looks like K1, except her personality isn't like K1 at all. So it takes place probably months later, that one shot called Tangents. And let me tell you. So, oh my God, my desk moved the drawer. Anyway, so what happened is, say, so what happened is that, um, so, well, I think my voice kind of got croaky because I've been talking for quite a bit. And so she looks like K1, she sounds like K1, but her personality is very different. K1 is like kind of unpredictable, kind of extroverted. And since she was a specter, she was like a supernatural creature, assuming she is. She was kind of mysterious. There was this bit of spark and curiosity, the air of curiosity around her. Jinkyung is so not like her. Jinkyung is like this toned down, awkward version, probably has imposter syndrome, low confidence, low self esteem, awkward potato, and cozy version of Haewon. Jinkyung is like very shy and awkward like that. She's not like Haewon at all. So like yeah, she does her stuff and she suffers from imposter syndrome that she thinks that she's not good enough. I feel like she shouldn't do this, but characters have flaws and she compares herself to her sister who is more version upbeat than her and looks very confident and she's doing her job. Technically, Jinkyung is also doing her job, but it happens. Not everybody is perfect, or people have things going on in their lives. So Jinkyung is like that. Funny thing, funny thing. So it's like, say, here's this thing I realized after naming the sisters, that if I'm pairing Jiwon with Haechan, the ship name will be Haewon. Also, and the thing is, Johnny and Haewon ship was called Henny, and I used to joke with Newbie this Boombaya song. So Henny reminds me like that Boombaya Jenny's part, like hands up, nest on a bottle full of Henny, and this is Henny. So if it's Jinkyung, this is gonna be the next line. It's like nega malaman doesn't get ganaya Jenny. Okay, I cannot speak Korean. Pardon me, I'm not good at Korean, so there's that. Also, there's something I want to add as a disclaimer, that even though there are Jinkyung and Haewon are like very different person, but there are moments that remind Johnny that Jinkyung is kind of like Haewon. Sometimes, not always. Jinny, and previously it was Henny, and apparently every pair with Johnny ends with a knee. Like I don't know, if someone is their name starts with Na and there's Johnny, and the ship name will be Nanny, and that's kind of hilarious. But anyway, so yeah, the ship name Johnny. Anyway, Ginny. So the story, at first it focuses on the Kong sister, but nobody knows that she looks like Haewon. But say Johnny, after that tangents part, he visited that cafe owned by Jangwon several times. Once, twice, so third time's a charm. So that on the third time he came visiting the cafe, he sees Jinkyung there. And the thing is, sorry, he saw Jinkyung once in the streets because they live in the same area. So obviously, I feel like Johnny is a very realistic person. I feel like the canon, if I'm taking canon, that he wouldn't really think about it. But when you go through something and it was an eerie experience for him in Tangents, you should read Tangents when I upload it. I don't know. I'm currently writing it. Hopefully, you guys will check it out on Wattpad. It's the Wattpad link is given on our website, litladiespodcast.com.wordpress.com. But anyway, enough of promotion. So Johnny had a very weird experience with Haewon that night because, it's like dreams and reality, regular, irregular kind of feeling. And it was kind of eerie. So he might think that he was dreaming, but there's always that one bit of confusion, questioning on one's mind that what was it? So if he ever meets someone who looks like Haewon in the streets, he would be surprised. But say he was in a hurry around that time, so he didn't get to, sleuth around. And technically, he is a K-pop star and he doesn't have that much time. But if he saw someone like that in the streets, he would think that Haewon isn't a ghost, like she was joking in the story. And anyway, so he saw once. So on the third day, he sees Haewon look-alike in the cafe clearly. And he was like not shocked, but he the thing is that night he and Haewon had a lot of good time chatting around, talking to one another, and it was good. And he was like giving this Haewon look-alike a very sharp look in the story. Let's assume it's a fan fiction, and maybe he wouldn't do something like that in real life. We don't know. We don't know if John-soo, whatever. But in the story, he was like giving her a look. And the thing is, Jin-kyung was like, oh, why is this? She's already very awkward. And she was like thinking, why is this stranger looking at me like that? So since Johnny was like sitting far away, she didn't realize that it's the NCT Johnny staring at her like that. And Jin-kyung was thinking like, oh, what's wrong with him? Why is he like that? So Jin-kyung came to meet Hyeran at the cafe, and the cafe was suggested to her by Do-young, and Do-young was suggested by Jae-hyun, and Jae-hyun would definitely suggest Chungwon's cafe to whoever he knows. So Hyeran and Jin-kyung came to visit the cafe. So Johnny was staring at her, and Jin-kyung was very kind of like, very wary and like, why? She's very awkward. And suddenly Hyeran comes, and well, Johnny was surprised seeing Hyeran because he knows Hyeran because of Do-young. And also because if I mention the plot later, you guys will know. It's this Do-young fanfiction in the same world. So it's a series like that. It's like her say Winwood, and then Tangents in between. It's like 1.5, and then there's Sneakerdoodles, Do-young story, and this one is called Ghost Talk / Schizophrens. There's a reason. I'll explain. So yeah, Hyeran visits. Hyeran is part. So this is the third book in the universe, and Hyeran visit, and Johnny saw Hyeran, and he said her hi, and Hyeran also gave him a hi, and then Jin-kyung was thinking like, what is going on? And then Hyeran probably introduced Jin-kyung and Johnny, and Jin-kyung was like very weird, and Johnny was probably thinking that maybe he doesn't want to talk to she doesn't want to talk to me. For some reason, he was just trying to figure out what was happening because he doesn't know that this is not the same person. So yeah, so this is how it's gonna be, super awkward, and eventually there's gonna be this awkward friendship between Jin-kyung and Johnny, and at some point he might probably ask her that, so what happened? And she would be like super confused, like, what are you talking about? I never met you before. And Johnny was like, you're not Haewon? Like, no, I'm Jin-kyung. And then this is like the confusion is gonna happen, and yeah, so it's like a friends to lovers kind of thing. And Johnny would eventually realize that she's very different from Haewon because, as I've mentioned before, there's difference. They just look alike, they have same voice, height, stuff like that, but like appearance, they're same, but not personality. But that's okay. Johnny will fall for Jinkyung eventually because Jinkyung is nice as well. And because of that, Jinkyung is friends with Hera and everyone, NCT will get to be friends with this webtoon artist, and probably they're gonna check out their webtoon as well. And Haechan and Jiwon will be being zero liners. They're gonna be friends and stuff like that. And I would also ship Haechan and Jiwon. Haewon. Haewon is everywhere. You cannot get rid of Haewon. She's that ghost on our mind. Very impressionable. So yeah. I'm not sure how it's gonna go exactly, but Jinkyung, who already has low self-esteem, she would be thinking that, say, if Johnny falls for Jinkyung eventually, she would be skeptical about it because she will think that, oh, he's just simply projecting Haewon on me. He doesn't like me, he likes Haewon, so this is gonna be that root of third act conflict that she would be like thinking, I don't want to be a replacement for someone else like that. She doesn't want to be like that. So she would be very skeptical about it, and they would have this communication, JCC. Sorry, had to drop that lame pun here. So they're going to have the communication and they're going to work things out. But this just that third act conflict is going to be the drama between them, that whatever. So yeah, Jinkyung will be a bit hard to handle because of her low self-esteem, sadly. But yeah, they're gonna be good friends, and I don't know how they're gonna interact, but it's gonna be fun. And I feel like the ship K1, G1, and Haechan will also be super fun because Haechan is he's crazy. Haechan is crazy, and G1 is very savage and sarcastic. I think I'm not sure how G1 is, but she's very savage. That's for sure, and she's fun. If Jinkyung is oddball, Jiwon is like, she's more a bit. She's not necessarily like Haewon though. None of the sisters are like Haewon. Haewon is, let's say, Haewon is a ghost, and ghosts are like the way ghosts are sometimes represented in stories, like this one as well. They're a bit more, bit of enigmatic kind of people. So nobody's like Haewon, but Jiwon is nice and everything. She's fun, and Jinkyung is also fun. So the reason I named this story Ghost Talk, because also this episode is called Ghost Talk, because Jinkyung is a writer, so she makes webtoon and she talks to her characters a lot. She ghost talks a lot. So there's that aspect to it in the story. Also, she started ghost talking with Johnny as well. Like Johnny kind of gave her muse vibes when she talked to them, and she started talking to Johnny in her head, the character Johnny in her head as well in the story. Also, the fact that Johnny is this whole Haewon thing happened, and Haewon is a ghost, assuming she is, but nobody knows what the truth is because it was open ended, never explained. Haewon is a ghost, and she talks to this Haewon lookalike. It kind of has that ghost talk vibe as well. And yeah, also Jinkyung is kind of has this dad sense of humor, so Jinkyung and Johnny would be good friends, I feel like. So, like, say, that sense of humor in a sense that Jinkyung would be probably the kind of person who would say things like, do you know who orders Grande Cafe coffee at Starbucks? And then Johnny would probably like roll his eyes or something, and she's gonna laugh saying that it's Ariana. That was so lame. But Jinkyung makes jokes like that as well. Like Jaehyun. So like yeah, there's that. Also, so yeah, this is something that's why it's called Ghost Talk. Also, it's called slash schizophrenic. It's like you're not necessarily schizophrenic, but it's like imaginary friends, I guess. So yeah, this is like imaginary friends, these imaginary characters she has. Also, Haewon also kind of became her imaginary friend. It's like Jinkyung at one point started imagining Haewon as well from what she heard from Johnny. She started having this Haewon in her imagination. It's kind of scary. It's like how Haewon is so, she's like a virus. Like, how Rebecca is in the book Rebecca, the gothic fiction Rebecca is like in on everyone's mind. It's like Haewon is somehow on everyone's mind, and she imagined this Haewon to be like very attractive version of her, and she kind of feels inferior to her, and which is really sad. But hopefully, she's gonna overcome it at the end of the story. And yeah, so like Haewon is there in everyone's mind in the story. she made Haewon, and she sometimes talks to her as well, although she never met Haewon, and Johnny still doesn't know what happened that night. But he's glad that he got to meet Jin. So this whole cafe is probably spooky. Jungwon's cafe is very spooky. It's also mentioned in Tangents and Winwood. Even though I haven't started writing Winwood, I'm writing Tangents, a one shot, and currently it's like 6K, and I'm not sure how big it's gonna be, but let's see. So this is the story for today, and eventually in future I will talk about more fan fiction plots, and I hope that if you're interested in writing the story, you can write it, and you can try it for NaNoWriMo, because NaNoWriMo starts on November 1. Today is August 31st. And yeah, I hope you have a good time and have a lit night. Bye.